Hello, I'm Will and this is Mike with the Tabletop Donkeys.
Hello.
And in this video we're looking at issue 49 of Warhammer Age of Sigmar Stormbringer magazine, which came with 5 Spite-Revenants for the Sylvaneth and in fact finishes off the Sylvaneth part of the collection that comes with this magazine. So you'll be able to see them in our game towards the end of the video, but we'll also be having a look through the issue as well. So having a look inside the issue first, we have background on the Realm of Death, Shyish, which we've touched on before, but this is a more detailed look at it. In ages past, it was the land of the underworlds, the place where all the mortals of the mortal realms went after they died, and thus was a sombre place, but not necessarily a malevolent one, but that all changed with the schemes of Nagash, the self-appointed god of the dead, who bent all of these various underworlds to his own will and enslaved its inhabitants. And now it's a place of misery and torment for the most part. Its realm stone is called grave sand, and it's sort of greyish-purple crystal which gives the holder power over death. It also mentions the Shyish Nadir, which, unlike the rest of the mortal realms, concentrates its magic most strongly in the centre, due to a scheme of Nagash, rather than the edges as is normal. Now we continue with our in-universe look at the threat of chaos, written by Brother Mushar. Here is more exhortation to be wary of the taint of chaos and how it could seep in anywhere. And it mentions the path of the damned, those who have succumbed to chaos. Some of them not even knowingly so, but as chaos becomes more prevalent, they become gradually more aligned to its evil aims, and chaos corruption can spread like a disease. The heretic and the mutant needing to be rooted out in order to prevent its spread. Now we have the battle record for the Spite-Revenants, which are another kind of tree spirit, a bit like the tree revenants, but these ones are some of the most common of the outcasts of the Sylvaneth, who embody their bitterness, rage and spite, and the other Sylvaneth tend to avoid them. As usual, you can roll to give them some background and keep track of their deeds in battle. And then their build guide, it is the same kit as the Tree Revenants from previously, but with just different arm and head options, essentially. So, unlike the Tree Revenants, they do not wield weapons, they're just armed with claws. But otherwise, it's all the same bodies, and unlike the Tree Revenants, they don't have a command group, you can build them all however you want. Then their painting guide is slightly different to the other Sylvaneth. It's actually closer to the Spirit of Durthu, where starting with Abaddon Black and then dry brushing it with Catachan flesh to give a darker, sort of more scorched bark look, rather than the healthier looking bark of the Tree Revenants and so forth. But then otherwise, it's much the same colours following on from that. And there they are there. Not that many colours on them, but they still look quite effective for it. But I'll hand you over to Mike now, who will take us into our game.
So we can get straight into our new warscroll for our new Spite-Revenants. You can see they have the same stat line as Tree Revenants, with a 5-inch move, 2 wounds, 5+ save and bravery 6. They just have their cruel talons and fangs, which have a 1-inch range, 3 attacks, hitting and wounding on 3s, no rend and 1 damage. And they only have one special rule, which is Unbridled Malice, which is essentially the same as Venom Encrusted Weapons and the Stormstar Arsenal that the Stormguests have, where unmodified hit rolls for attacks made with their talons and fangs of 6 cause a mortal wound and the attack sequence ends. And the next page is just pointing out which member of the unit is the champion, the Shade Stalker, and then going over how Unbridled Malice works, but it's fairly simple. Should be used to getting mortal wounds for hitting on 6s with things by now. And then we have some more tactics articles. So we've got one here for the Loom Boss. So he's a good support unit for your other Moon Clan units. He definitely boosts their melee capability with his unique command ability. And he's has reasonably good defense for a Moon Clan unit as well, with a 4+ save and a ward of 6, although he doesn't actually have that many wounds. He only has 5, so he can die quite quickly if he's isolated. So obviously you want to make the best figure of him, you want to put him with a big mob of, or at least some other melee fighters to back him up, just so he can't get overwhelmed and he can buff them. And then we have the Fungoid Cave Shamans. So as you might expect, they have they're decent spellcasters. Spore Maws, their unique spell, can do a pretty decent amount of damage, and you can get an extra spell once again with their Deathcat Mushroom, although we haven't learned the lore of the Gloomspike Gits yet, so can't actually use that. Do have some extra sneaky abilities, like being able to generate you with an extra command point, and you're not able to see them from more than 12 inches away thanks to their Spore Squig. Well, they are very fragile, even more so than the Loom Boss, because they only have a 6+ save and only 5 wounds, so they will die very quickly if they're caught out. So perhaps to make the best use of them, you need to keep them hidden at the back until the correct opportunity to get the most out of them. And so on to the backstory for today's game. So we have the Realm Scout for the Dark Woods. So a Stormcast patrol, or an Order patrol, is making their way through one of the dark forests, presumably in the realm of metal, possibly still in the realm of shadows, it doesn't actually say. And they've happened upon a group of grots laying some traps, preparing an ambush. So the Order patrol is going to try and bring up the bulk of their force and catch the grots off guard on the back foot and hopefully deal with them so that the greater Order force doesn't get ambushed at a later date. And now we can see the choices for both sides. So for the Alliance of Order, we have the Branch Witch, the Spite-Revenants, and the Stormstrike Chariot. Then option 1 is between the Knight Arcanum or the Lord Imperator, and option 2 is between the Tree Revenants or the Vigilors. And for the Forces of Destruction that are setting up this little ambush, we have Zarbag, Zarbag's Gits, the 5 Boingrot Bounders, and the Cunning Crew. Apparently Manok is elsewhere because he's not listed here, so we won't be using him. Option 1 is between the Swampcaller Shaman and Porkrot, or the Killer Boss with Stabgrot, and then option 2 is between 10 Hopgrot Slitters or the 3 Bolt Boys. And then you can see the overall battle plan, also called Dark Woods. So you have the battle mat down the bottom there. It's just using battle mats 2 and 3, Order territory on the left along the short edge and Destruction territory opposite on the right, and 3 objectives down the centre of the battlefield. And we pick our choices, our unit options from the list on the left. We're only using the Primal Lair scenery, none of the Fountain or the Nexus Siphon. The deployment, the winner, we roll off and the winner chooses who deploys first, and the player who deploys first deploys all of their units, and then the other player goes, and we roll off for priority normally. Battle lasts for 5 battle rounds. That's the usual 1 victory point if you control 1 objective, 1 if you control 2 or more, and 1 if you control more than your opponent. And then the special rule is because it's a dark, oppressive forest, reduce the range characteristic of all missile weapons to 6 inches, and also reduce the bravery characteristic of all units by 1. Even the Sylvaneth units, it implies, which is a bit odd, but perhaps it's scary even for them. And once again, we have the highlights of Ian and Eve's playthrough, so again you can pause and have a look at what happened in their game and see the choices that they made, but we'll get straight into our game. So here we are in the dark, oppressive forest. You might have to use your imagination a little bit. You can see we've got our 3 objectives down the centre, number 1 at the top, number 3 at the bottom. And with the terrain, we've actually managed to deploy them semi-symmetrically. So clockwise from objective 1, we have some arcane crystals, a damned skeleton, an inspiring primordial goo, a sinister skull, a deadly steam vent, and a mystical baby great maw. And you can see our deployment as well. I chose to deploy first because I don't think it would actually make that much difference. So up at the top you can see the Swampcaller Shaman, who will be my general. He'll have Master of Magic, and we'll go for the Amulet of Destiny for a 6+ war because I don't think the tome helps him, and he'll also know Flaming Weapon, and I'll take Indomitable as my trait because we're bravery even worse than usual. Below him are the Cunning Crew, below them are the Hobgrots as my other choice. Then we have Zarbag's Gits with Zarbag, obviously Snoke's Sourtongue is hidden amongst them. And finally the Boingrot Bounders at the bottom.
And here you can see my deployment. Up at the top there we have the new Spite-Revenants, who are Ilfil's Woodstalkers. Coming down towards the camera we've got the Branch Witch, the Vigilors, who I picked. Even though their range is reduced to 6 inches in this game, they're still actually better in melee than the Tree Revenants, so apart from not being able to teleport, I think they're just a better choice anyway. And then the Lord Imperator is my other selection. He'll be my general. He'll have Heroic Stature for an extra wound, and the Arcane Tome, so that I have 2 unbinds as well, basically, to counter the other 2 wizards. And finally the Chariot at the bottom, and for my triumph I will be picking Inspired for the +1 to wound once per game.
And then we're just rolling off from priority.
I have 1. I picked to go first in battle round 1 so I can get on the objectives before they get covered in grots.
So we'll be on to order turn 1. So Zarbag and the Lord Imperator both achieved heroic leadership, and the Lord Imperator tried to cast Mystic Shield, but Zarbag unbound it.
Yeah, I didn't mention that the Lord Imperator will have Flaming Weapon as his extra spell, and the Branch Witch will have Levitate, just because we've never used it. I probably still won't use it, but it's just a bit different. And then for movement, 2 infantry units ran to hold objectives 1 and 2. The Chariot is on objective 3, and the 2 heroes are following. And because it's very dark, I can't see anything to shoot, so that'll be the end of my turn. And I will gain 3 victory points for holding 2 objectives, basically.
Well, all 3 objectives. And then we'll be on to Destruction turn 1. Heroic actions, Lord Imperator failed heroic leadership, Zarbag got it again. Didn't get an extra spell though. He tried to cast Mystic Shield, but it was unbound. And the Shaman up at the top has cast Arcane Bolt and given an elixir to the Cunning Crew, just in case I don't get the return. And you can see my movement. The Hobgrot and Zarbag's Gits have run just to get them in range of objectives 2 and 3 respectively. Zarbag used his free one, his heroic leadership one, to move up to keep up with the Gits. Up at the top, the Cunning Crew and the Shaman are moving up a bit more circumspect. We could move up to take Objective 1 if we ran, but that would leave them vulnerable, and Spite-Revenants will do a fair amount of damage on the charger, I think. There's not a lot of wounds going around up there. Leaving it to Stugit to benefit from the arcane gems, so the Shaman can stand behind the Cunning Crew. And down here, the Boingrot Bounders move up normally. They've got to go 12, so it gets them to Objective 3, and that caused the Chariot to redeploy 3 inches back with the Lord Imperatant's free command point. And nothing's going to be ranged for shooting, so in the charge phase I will charge with the Boingrot Bounders. And also my Dirty Trick is going to be a noisy racket, because obviously being covered in mud is not going to be helpful if nobody can shoot over 6 inches away. So their charge is a 6, that's not going to be enough. You know what, I'll re-roll it, just because I've got so many command points that are going to go away. Into 5, so no, that's a failed charge. I'm not too worried about that. And that is then going to be my turn, and I'm going to take control of objectives 2 and 3 and gain 3 victory points because I hold 2 objectives, and that's more than the order. But that would be the end for battle round 1. And rolling off for battle round 2. Well, I won the roll off, I think I'll definitely choose to go first. So Destruction turn 2. So Lord Imperator got heroic leadership this time, and Zarbag didn't. Zarbag didn't even get an extra spell either, but he did successfully cast Mystic Shield on the Boingrot Bounders. Up at the top, the Shaman has cast Arcane Bolt again. You can see he and the Cunning Crew have moved out. He's also given the Cunning Crew a poison. The Hobgrots ran, only got 1 inch. He got them over on top of Objective 2, and that caused the Vigilors to redeploy, and now they're all out of range of the Hobgrots because we can only shoot 6 inches. One of them's still in range of the Lord Imperator though, so look out. Zarbag gets moved up normally, as did Zarbag, just consolidating over Objective 3, and the Boingrot Bounders have gone in, and they're 3 inches away from the Chariot. So we do still have some shooting. One Hobgrot is in range of the Lord Imperatant, and another one is in range of a Spite-Revenant. One shot on the Lord Imperatant, that missed. One shot on the Spite-Revenant, that missed. So in the charge phase, I'm going to do the Boingrot Bounders first. And they get an 8, it's certainly enough to get them in.
Oh, hang on, you move them first because I'm not unleashed.
So they'll get in like that, and I think it's actually going to be my only charge, because if I send in the Cunning Crew against the Spite-Revenants, they'll probably get minced by them.
But I will use the Lord Imperatant's once per turn free command ability to have the Chariot unleash hell. But even if we can just kill one of these squigs, that would actually reduce their attacks. So 2 shots will be hitting on 4s because we're unleashing hell. So we've got 1, and then it wounds on a 3. It did. It's -1, but there's like a Mystic Shield up.
Yeah, so 4 plus save. Failed. The Boingrot Bounder takes a wound. And now I can do my impact hits. I roll 5 dice, and each 4 plus, the Chariot takes a mortal wound. 2 mortal wounds on the Chariot, it's down to 10. So the Bounder boss is going to issue all-out attack to his unit.
And the Lord Imperatant will issue all-out defense to the Chariot.
Yep, so 11 attacks with lances on 3s. Getting 8 hits, wounding on 3s. Getting 6 wounds at -2 because we charged.
So with all-out defense we have 4 plus saves. Oh, we failed all of them. That's going to be 12 damage.
Yep.
And it's dead.
+1 damage on the charge, yep. Well, that was certainly effective, and I now hold all 3 objectives and gain another 3 victory points, and we'll head into Order Turn 2.
So this turn, Zarbag succeeded on heroic leadership, but the Lord Imperatant failed, and the Lord Imperatant, with his arcane tome, is going to try and cast a flaming weapon on himself. Getting a 4. He gets a 6.
I'll try and unbind with Zarbag. Unbind with an 11.
And then the Branch Witch will try and cast Unleash Spites, needing a 5. Gets it with a 7.
I'll try and unbind with the Shaman. He'll get +1 because he's next to the Arcane Crystal. He gets a 7 as well, so it's successful. The only enemy unit in...
Hang on, he's a Master of Magic, isn't he?
Oh yes, he's got Master of Magic, so he can re-roll it. So he gets even worse.
Yeah, well, the only enemy unit in range is the Hobgrots, so they will be the target, obviously. So because I rolled a unmodified 7,
yep.
I roll 7 dice, and 5 pluses do mortal wounds. Ooh, 4.
That's 4 dead Hobgrots.
And then for movement, the Lord Imperatant is going to have to go and deal with the Boingrot problem. Vigils have moved towards Zarbag's Git. We're going to try and make a play for all the objectives this turn. And up at the top, the Branch Witch is going to go and try and take on those remaining Hobgrots, and the Spite-Revenants are heading towards Objective 1.
And also I spent a command point to redeploy the Boingrot Bounders. I know it doesn't look like I did, because they only got 1 inch, and are barely any further away.
So shooting, I do have some things in range finally. The Vigilors are all in range of Zarbag's Git, so we'll shoot at them. So I'm going to spend a command point for all-out attack.
And Zarbag's going to spend his Heroic Leadership 1 for all-out defense on the Gits.
So 2s to hit with 11 shots. Well, we got a 2. So that was 9 hits, wounding on 3s. Wow. 2.
And 2 6+ saves thanks to all-out defence. I failed both, so we'll lose one of the bowmen.
And then the Lord Imperator will be shooting at the Boingor Bounders because he also has a 6-inch range. It's 4 on 3s, gets 3 hits. And wounding on 3s, 2 at -1.
Back to a 4+. Get them in the box. We made one, so we take 1 wound. So that does actually kill one of the bounders. I forgot to put a dice next to the wounded one. Right, at the start of the charge phase, I'm going to have Snoke Sailtongue pop out of the Zarbag's Gits.
And then I'm going to declare charges. I'll start with the Lord Imperator. So thanks to the redeploy, he needs a 4. He gets an 11. So he gets in. Spite-Revenants will go next. They get a 4, which is the minimum, pretty much. So we're going to charge in a slightly funny way like this, because I'm not within 3 inches of the Swamp Crawler Shaman here, which means that at the start of the combat phase he won't be able to use his Arcane Bolt and potentially kill one before they get to attack. He'll still get to use it later, like the start of the Battle Shock phase or something, but that'll be after they've attacked. So then we're going to charge with the Vigilors. They roll a 7. And actually, a slight change of plan. The Vigilors are going to go into the Hobgrots in the middle, because I don't really want to have Snurk Sailtongue attack them with his strike first before they get to do anything, and the Branch Witch therefore doesn't need to charge, she'll just stand behind everything. But we're going to pick the Lord Imperator to fight first, and he'll use his once per turn free command ability, which I haven't used yet, to give himself all-out attack. So 4 attacks with his weapon, which will be hitting on 2s. Well, I mean it helped, but 2 1s is still no use. He does wound twice though.
2 4+ saves. Fail both, that's going to kill 2 of the bounders.
And then Dauntless the Great Hound gets to go. He can hit, but he wins on 4s. So fail all of those.
So I'll do the Cunning Crew. I think they'll have more success than the Hobgrots will against the Vigilors, and they pile in. A little bit funny, but just to get them all within an inch, apart from the Net, who has a 3-inch range, and also so that if all the Spite-Revenants want to fight, they need to pile in close enough to bring in the Shaman.
The Spite-Revenants will issue all-out defence to themselves.
Yep, so we got 4 attacks with Torka Tough Skull's Man Snapper on 3s. They were poisoned, so the 5 is a mortal wound. And I can do Gickit and Crook Grins at weapons together because they are basically the same. So 5 attacks on 4s, 5 is a mortal wound, so there's another mortal wound and a hit. Wounds on a 4, it does. No rend.
So a 4+ save, which I failed, so it's 3 damage so far.
And then finally 1 attack from the Net on a 4, which hits. Wounds on a 4, it does not.
It does kill a Spite-Revenant and a half, but now they're safe, at least until they pile into the Shaman, so I'll do the Vigilors next. The Vigilors have 10 melee attacks, which hit on 3s.
3s because you shot at a different unit.
Getting 7 hits, which wound on 3s. 6.
So all the Hobgrots are dead. And I've just got the 2 remaining Bounders to go. So I can do both of the Boingrot Bounders weapons at the same time because they hold the same profile. So I'll have 11 attacks in total on 4s. Sending 5 hits and only on 3s, getting 2 at -1.
So a 4+ save. He takes a wound. He's down to 7 thanks to
Heroic Stature.
And I've got the Spite-Revenants, and since I lost one, they can actually all pile in, so they're all just within an inch of the Cunning Crew, but not within 3 of the Shaman, so the Arcane Bolt won't be quite so punishing, and also he won't be able to hit them with his stick. So they have 3 attacks each, and the champion has an extra, so 13 attacks, which will be hitting on 3s. 6s do a mortal wound instead. We've only got 1 mortal wound, but we've only got 3 misses, so we'll take that. And then 3s to wound. Ooh, not bad. That is 8.
So we're going to need to make some 6s, or we're going to be running away. Or we're all going to be dying, rather. We got a 6, so that's
7. It's 8 damage total.
Yeah, which will leave Torka Tosco on 1 wound, I think. No, actually, I think we'll leave Crookgrin on 1 wound. So I'm going to leave Crookgrin because as long as he's alive, he never runs away. But even though Neckman and Torkatovska are dead, he can still try and snatch one of the Spite-Revenants somehow. And he'll try and snatch the Shade Stalker. So I do need to roll a 4+. I do not. Oh, if I kept Torkatovska, that would have worked. And at the start of the Battle Shock phase, the Shaman will use his Arcane Bolt to blip that wounded Spite-Revenant.
Yeah, but the rest are still in coherency, just about.
Yeah. And then
it's my turn, so my Battle Shock test is first, but I'll spend my last CP for this battle round to keep them around, because the -1 bravery is actually quite punishing for Sylvaneth.
Yeah, and I'll use my Triumph to keep all of Zarbag's Gits and the command point to keep the Boingrot Bounders.
Just because of the number of models left and where they are, I can't take both objectives because too many of Zarbag's Gits are in range of objective 2, and Zarbag himself is as well. I will choose for both the Vigilors and the Spite-Revenants to be in range of objective 1, so I do at least take that one.
That'll be 1 victory point for Order at the end of Battle Round 2. Rolling off for Battle Round 3.
Oh, try and get my box. I have 1, and I will go first this battle round.
Now on to Order, turn 3.
So the Branch Witch did heroic leadership this time and succeeded. Zarbag failed, and then the Lord Imperator is going to open spellcasting with an Arcane Bolt, which he got with a 5. That's the bare minimum.
Try and unbind with Zarbag. He does with an 8.
And the Branch Witch will try and cast Unleash Spikes again. It's failing with a 3. The 2 units in the middle that were free are going to move. The Vigilors coming down towards objective 3, and the Branch Witch going up towards objective 1. So then we'll do some shooting. We'll start with the Lord Imperator, so obviously only can shoot at the unit right in front of him. D6 times, 5, on 3s, only getting 2, wounding on 3s, getting 2.
4+ saves, because he's still got Mystic Shield. Fail both.
And then the Vigilors, one of them, or say the one on the far end, is going to shoot at Snurk Sourtongue, the other 4 will shoot at Zarbag's Gits, and I think we will use all-out attack.
And Zarbag will give them all-out defense as well.
And I think I'm actually going to use my Triumph for +1 to wound here as well, because I've got a full unit still. So the one who's going to be shooting at Snurk Sourtongue, he's going to be hitting on 2s, that's 2, and 2s to wound, so that's 2 wounds.
He's dead.
He's dead. And 9 shots at Zarbag's Gits, also on 2s, so 7 hits, wounding on 2s, 7.
7, 6+ saves. We made 1, so 6 damage.
So onto the charge phase, just the Vigilors declaring a charge, I think, this turn. They roll a 12. The Vigilors are going to go first, having charged like this. They'll put all their attacks on Zarbag's Gits.
Zarbag will issue all-out defense again.
10 melee attacks, hitting on 2s because they shot at the unit in the shooting phase.
3s because there's a net.
But 3s because there's a net, so the 2 misses there. So 3s to wound, 7.
Another 7, 6+ saves. No, they are all gone. Well, I'll do Crookgrin before he gets minced, because he might be able to kill a Spite-Revenant.
I use the command point from heroic leadership to give them all out defense.
Yep, so 3 attacks on 4s, 5 mortal wounds. We got a mortal wound. And that's it.
Lord Imperator will go, give himself a free all-out attack for this turn. So he hits on 2s with his main weapon, and wounds on 3s. He gets 2 wounds.
4+ saves. No, failed 1, so the one-grot banders are destroyed. I'll do Zarbag next, and you know what, he'll pile in. He's going to take some down with him. Zarbag has 3 attacks with his sickle on 3s, getting 2, and 3s, getting 1 at -1.
So 5+ for the Vigilor. Oh, I made it. Finally, I've got the Spite-Revenants. I won't actually pile in so as to not bring the Shaman in. I've just got the 2 in range of Crookgrin with 7 attacks. Hitting on 3s, 6 to 2 mortal wounds. Yes, he takes 2 mortal wounds.
Yeah, he is dead. So that will mean that the Order will take all 3 objectives and go up to 7 victory points, but I think I am just going to concede as well because I've got 2 heroes left, even though it's my turn left. I think we'll call that an Order victory. I'll recap that for you now. So that was the game for issue 49 of Age of Sigmar Stormbringer magazine. How do you think that went?
Well, better than I thought it was going to go after the Chariot got completely obliterated. That was not a great start to the game, winning the double turn and then the Boingrot Bounders doing Boingrot Bounder things. But then the rest of your army was actually pretty much ineffective, because it was 2 Underworld's Warbands, a unit of Hoggrots, and another Wizard.
And Zarbag's Gits and the Cunning Crew really don't have any staying power, and neither do Hoggrots. And it's a bit weird to have the Bolt Boys as a choice, as an alternative to the Hoggrots. I don't think that would have been a smart choice at all. I wouldn't have been able to take the objective with numbers, but they have fewer wounds overall, the same save, and they can't use their shooting effectively, really.
But interestingly, despite the reduced shooting range, I think the Vigilors were my best unit. They're not a frontline close combat unit, but they're more than enough to deal with Hoggrots and even Zarbag's Gits, actually, just because of those units don't have much of a save.
If I had the Gut Rippers instead of the Hoggrots, I probably would have felt a lot better, but yeah, effectively I have no front line, or at least a front line that's made out of thin tissue paper and hope.
I think the Lord Imperator was a better choice than the Knight Arcanum, given that I gave him the Arcane Tome to be another Wizard.
Just need him to hit things.
Yeah, whereas the Knight Arcanum doesn't really do all that much.
Oh, I think she would have, given the way she usually rolls, she possibly would actually lose to the Boingrot Bounders, even if they don't charge.
Yeah, and as I said at the beginning, the Tree Revenants were just probably a worse choice than the Vigilors. Their only advantage over the Vigilors is that they can teleport, but actually, otherwise, even with reduced shooting range, the Vigilors are just better, I think.
Yeah. And the teleporting isn't that useful when you can just move. All the objectives are in the middle of the board. Yeah,
and it wasn't a very large board either.
And Vigilors have slightly better bravery as well, which actually would be a factor in this.
And, well, actually, the Spite-Revenants acquitted themselves reasonably well, but they were against an Underworld's warband, which isn't really strictly a stern test of their abilities. On paper, they really don't look that impressive. I mean, yes, they're better in melee than true Revenants, but they can't teleport, so they're just slow. They're not any more durable. And they don't have any special abilities like being able to do free all-out attack and defence.
They're arguably less durable because you can't get free all-out defence.
Yeah, and so yes, they do have quite a lot of attacks which are good against things with a poor save, like grots. But
yeah, and I think their ability to do mortal wounds is a bit wasted against low armour save units anyway.
I mean, if they get the charge off on something that is heavily armoured, the mortal wounds can put a scratch in it, but then they're probably just going to get pummeled in return. I think this is another unit, a bit like the Tree Revenants, maybe even more so, where in general they are not very effective if you don't have the Sylvaneth battle traits, where your entire army can teleport around the board and you get benefits for being near awakened woods and all that sort of thing. In this kind of game, where they're just pretty much a stand-up fight, they are, again, have a decent damage output against weak things, but they're not really going to do much.
With the Arch Revenant, you could get 20 attacks out of them, which isn't bad for only 5 models.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, in general, the Sylvaneth don't play the same way as the Stormcast anyway, and you shouldn't expect them to. They are a more fragile army, and they rely a little bit more on positioning, speed, it's positioning, special abilities and buffs and things, whereas the Stormcast can usually just take anything in a straight-up fight. But they're in this kind of game, they're basically being made to play like a Stormcast unit, and that's not to their strengths. So we might see them do some slightly better things once we start learning the Sylvaneth rules, hopefully.
Yeah, and we do have actually finished the Sylvaneth collection as well, so yes, it's a decent enough starting point, and the 3 heroes you get are pretty good, especially the Spirit of Dirty. They certainly have a nice contrast to the Stormcast in the way they look as well.
Yeah, they're a different kind of faction, different kind of army in the way they play, and again, once we get the rules, we'll see a bit more of that. But yeah, I think it's a reasonably decent starting collection. It might be slightly better to have another unit rather than one of the heroes, but...
yeah, probably drop maybe the Branch Witch for a unit of Kernoth Hunters would have been an even better starting point.
Especially because the Arch Revenant specifically buffs Kernoth Hunters, which we don't get any of, but that aside, yeah, and actually getting, obviously, as we said at the time, getting the Spirit of Dirthu is quite a good bargain in this collection.
But yeah, I don't think there's too much more to say about this game or the Spite-Revenants or this issue, and we will eventually learn the Sylvaneth battle traits, so we'll be able to get see how they would normally play.
And actually, if you're a Sylvaneth player, well, I mean, at least in the previous edition, then do let us know if you do get use out of Spite-Revenants, because obviously we don't really see them in the wider context in this kind of game.
Yeah, so otherwise, leave any comments. We've been the Tabletop Donkeys, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye for now.